Settle this one in the comments. Is it Falinks or Falinks? Welcome back everyone to more from the Sable Eyes. I'm Mitch, and today, as we mentioned, we are going through the Falinks deck profile. This deck is really cool. I don't know if it's going to be tier 1 necessarily, but it's definitely very interesting. I really like it because there's a lot of synergy between the Pokemon that we use, and those are, of course, Falinks. So let's get into the list. We'll start off with the first 4 Pokemon in the deck, which is the Baby Falinks. So this card is really cool. It does a couple of things which are really good for the deck. Firstly, its first attack is Call for Family, so for a colorless, we can search for 2 basic Pokemon and put them onto our bench. This is actually really strong considering the fact that almost all of the Pokemon in our deck are going to be Phalinkses, so we need to search them out as quickly as possible so that we can get the most value out of our second attack, which is Team Attack, 30 times the amount of Pokemon on our bench with Falinks in their name. So that can get up to 5 if we've got the Falinks GX, which obviously we play 4 copies of as well. So if we've got 5 Falinks on the bench, then we're going to be doing 3 times 5, that is 150 damage. For a 1 prize attacker, 150 damage for 2 energy is pretty good, especially since we can attach one new twin energy, and that will be the entire attack cost, so that's really good. We do have, like I mentioned, the V version of the Falinks as well. This is very good, also has a similar ability in that we're going to use Iron Wall Formation, the ability to reduce all damage done to Pokemon with Falinks in the name by 20. So that means if we have 4 Falinks V out, every single one of our Falinks is going to be reducing the amount of damage done to them by 80 damage. So we've got a Baby Falinks with 90 HP, we reduce the amount of damage being done to it by 80. That means that, theoretically, our Baby Falinks in the active has a 170 HP. So that is really high considering the fact that it's a single prize attacker. Imagine if your opponent is going to be half hit most of the time, because we've got 150 damage coming their way, they're going to be half hit and they're going to need to do 170 damage every turn just to get 1 prize. It's obviously going to be quite tough. Now, sometimes, obviously, Falinxes will be prized, so we might need a little bit of damage modification from elsewhere. We play 1 copy of Diancie Prism Star. That allows us to potentially move that up to an extra 20 damage. We won't get the bonus from having a Falinks in play, but we will get the extra damage from Diancie. It's also important to remember as well that we can use Falinks V if we need to with Giga Impact for 210. So it's a bit of a fail-safe there. If we can't get our Baby Falinks attacking, then we'll use our Falinks V, hopefully. When it comes to the supporters, we've got a very interesting supporter line. There's a lot of things going on here, so I'll talk through them all. Firstly, we have 2 copies of Professor's Research, the best draw supporter in the game. You might ask if it's the best, why are we not playing 4? Well, because we don't realistically want to be discarding a lot of the cards that we have, especially Falinxes. We need to keep them. If we throw them away, we could find ourselves in trouble, so we also run 2 copies of Cynthia as well. That means that if we find ourselves in a pinch, we can always shuffle and draw 6 instead of discarding and drawing 7. We also play 4 copies of Marnie in order to draw 5 cards and also to disrupt our opponent. If we don't like the cards in our hand and we don't want to discard them, we can just chuck them on the bottom and we can force our opponent to do the same. We draw 5, they draw 4, reasonable disruption. And we also have 1 copy of Erica's Hospitality as well. This means that we can effectively draw up to, 10 Pokemon? 6 Pokemon, sorry, no. Words are hard. I'm struggling this morning. We can effectively draw 6 cards off of Erica's if we have a hand lower than 4, which is going to happen more often than not. We also have a few weird supporters that you might not have seen before or haven't seen in a while. We have 2 copies of Bead in the list in order to help us accelerate energy onto our Falinks V. We can attack for 210 with Fighting, Colorless. That means we can attach a Fighting. We can use a Bead to get a second fighting energy on there, and then maybe use a counter gain or something like that to try and get ourselves into that attack in a single turn. It is important to remember that the Falinks needs to be on the bench, so if we're going to use Bead, we're probably going to use that on a turn when we've already attached another energy to another Pokemon. We also have 2 copies of the new Sonya. This card is really interesting. It's really good in this list in that it searches for 2 Pokemon or 2 basic energy. So if we need another Falinks or 2, we can use Sonya, we can grab them and get them down. Just think, if we have a Falinks in the active, a baby Falinks, we attach a capture energy to it, search out another Falinks, then use Sonya, get 2 more Phalinkses, and then finally call for family. We can fill up our board with Phalinkses on the first turn of the game. Rounding out the supporters, we have 2 copies of Boss's Orders. Very, very strong supporter. Best supporter coming out of the new set. We're going to be able to use this to gust up whatever Pokemon we want, so that we can take and knock out things like Dedenne are easy prizes for us, because we're going to be able to do at least 120 damage most of the time, and that is going to be increased by the amount of, by the resistance, by the weakness that Dedenne has. Like I said, I'm struggling with words, that's okay. We're going to power through, but obviously Boss's Orders is very, very strong. Moving into items, we have our traditional ball search in 4 copies of Quick Ball. Like I said, we've got lots of other ways to search out Pokemon, so realistically we don't need any more apart from these 4 Quick Ball. But we do have a little bit of acceleration through our deck with Acro Bike. That means that if we don't find the Pokemon that we need with Quick Ball, we can always just go into... Oops, there's 4 copies of Acro Bike. Sorry about that. So we can always go into our Acro Bikes and try and draw some more cards. Like I said, we need to have Phalinkses all the time, so let's play 2 copies of Ordinary Rod. That means that we can potentially get about 4 copies of Falinks back, which is really, really strong. Obviously, Diancie Prism, if it goes, it's gone forever. Like I was saying before, Bead only attaches energy to the bench, so if we want to get those energy, we're going to need to run our switch. We've got 3 copies of that. We don't realistically need to switch for any reason, apart from utilizing Bead or maybe going into one of those big Giga Impacts. So switch is pretty strong, but if they do gust up our Diancie, that could potentially be awkward, so we want to make sure we can get out that way. We also have a copy of Air Balloon as well, so it's not the end of the world. We can attach that to pretty much any of our Pokemon and retreat for free. We also have 3 stadiums in the list. We've chosen to run, oops, I've just knocked the mat there, Martial Arts Dojo. This is a really strong trainer card in this list because it's going to increase the amount of damage we can do again. If we have Martial Arts Dojo in play, we get an extra 10 if we are in front, an extra 10 damage for all of our attacks that have fighting energy attached. And if we are behind, we're going to do an extra 40. So let's just think about that baby Falinks for a second. Doing 150 if we have the Dojo, that's 160. If we're behind, we're going to be doing 190 damage, which is a huge amount to be doing, and it's really easy to get into those attacks because we've got 2 copies of Counter Gain and 1 copy of Karate Belt. So if ever we're behind, we're going to find it really, really easy to find an energy and a Counter Gain or a Karate Belt to get an attack off. Now we've got 2 copies of Counter Gain because we're going to be trying to attack with our baby Falinks more often than not, so we can attach a Counter Gain to that Falinks and attack for 1 energy, 1 colorless. But Karate Belt is kind of useful if we're attacking with Falinks V, because it means that we can reduce that cost by 1 fighting. Rounding out the support trainers, I guess, we've got Reset Stamp, Great Catcher, and Tool Scrapper. We're seeing these a lot in our decks so far. They're just good utility. We all know why they're good, so we're going to keep them. Tool Scrapper, a very, very strong card that's going to remove annoying items from our opponent's board. I already mentioned we run 3 copies of the new Capture Energy, which we can attach and then search out more Pokemon with, which is really cool. We also run another new special energy from this deck, that is from this set, that is 4 copies of Twin Energy. Twin Energy is really, really good because it is a double colorless energy for non-V, non-GX Pokemon. So we can attach that one to Falinks with no problem and start attacking. Falinks V, on the other hand, will need to power up with basic energy, which is why we run a hefty count of 6 fighting energy in the list so that we can attack with that Falinks V. Overall, this deck has a lot of cool things it can do. Whether or not it's going to be a high tier deck, I doubt, but you know, it's always good fun to test out new cards when they come out, and you can check this one out in some gameplay tomorrow. But yeah, it's looking pretty good. So there's the list. We'll see it in some gameplay tomorrow morning. Blake's got some interesting lists cooking himself, so we'll get together then to show this one off in action. Thank you very much for coming along. If you've liked the video, then consider subscribing. Click the button just here to do that. Over here are some videos that YouTube thinks you'll like, as well as a button down the bottom with a playlist of more Rebel Clash decks. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter at @thesableeyes_YT, and apart from that, we'll see you all next time for more from the Sable Eyes. Bye.